My name is Adam Bauer, and today I'm going to be talking about some of the work that I've been working on. Data loggers and artificial eggs reveal wild scarlet macaw egg turning behavior. And in this work, we used data loggers positioned within artificial eggs to measure the egg turning behaviors of these macaws in the southwest Amazon basin. And our objectives were to characterize the average egg turning rates and average egg turning sizes of these wild macaws, and to characterize how these parameters, both turn rates and turn sizes, change over the incubation period. So avian incubation is going to include a number of different components, including the exchange of temperature, gas, and water, but it also includes egg turning. Egg turning is going to be found in the vast majority of avian taxa, where it's important for embryonic development, hatch success, and chick quality. However, egg turning behaviors are not well understood, oftentimes because they're difficult to measure in the wild. And our study is the first to characterize this behavior in any wild parrot. And this particular work has applications to conservation, both ex situ with captive breeding and artificial incubation, and also management of nests in situ conservation. So the study was conducted in the Tamaulipas National Reserve, located there in southeast Peru. And we studied the Scarlet Macaw. So for the Scarlet Macaw, we have females laying about 2 to 4 eggs during the breeding season, from October to December, with about 26 days of incubation. We were able to place our egg loggers in 24 different nests, although we would end up using data only from 4 of these nests. So as you can see there in the middle, there are pictures of these loggers and components with 3D printed eggshells and various sensors, including accelerometers and magnetometers, and what they look like there in the clutch. The egg logger is the one all the way to the right, a little bit less shiny. We would access these Scarlet Macaw nests using single rope ascension techniques, and we would place these loggers on the second day of incubation and retrieve them after the first chick began to hatch. And so we had a number of different ways to look at this data in order to validate that these egg loggers were being attended in a manner at least similar to that of the real eggs. And we also modeled our data to account for non-dependence from repeated measures from individual hens. Egg turn rates, the average egg turn rate was about 11.5 turns per hour, averaging across hens and across days of incubation, with a pretty large amount of variation between 8 to 13 turns per hour. The egg turn rates peaked during the middle of incubation, and they certainly were greater in the second half than in the first half. These egg turn rates did vary significantly among hens, with a sizable effect size of about 3.47 turns per hour. So they could be pretty different between hens, as you can see there in that figure on top, with the hen from the nest angel having a much higher egg turn rate than the other hens. Egg turn size averaged 42.2 degrees per turn, with a smaller range, and it did increase significantly over the incubation period. This parameter was also different among different hens, but the effect size for it was pretty small. And you can see that down in the figure below. So the big takeaways of this work is that the altricial Scarlet Macaw turns its eggs at a higher rate than the more precocious species that have been studied with similar methods, but the sizes are about the same size. Egg turn rates are dynamic over the incubation period. They're greater in the second half and probably peaking there toward the middle, with sizes also increasing. But the big takeaway is when you compare the Scarlet Macaw with the other species, as you can see in the figure on top in the red, the Scarlet Macaw does have the highest egg turn rates by a pretty large margin. It's also the most it's also the most altricial species to be studied with these methods, which is hypothesized to be a reason for this difference. However, when comparing the Scarlet Macaw to other species in terms of its egg turning size, the size is pretty comparable across the board. And the big application of this work is to conservation, improving artificial incubation. Parrots are highly threatened, and a lot of them are recommended for captive breeding. And it can be difficult to artificially incubate a number of parrot species. Not all, but a lot of them can be difficult to artificially incubate. And so applying our knowledge from the incubation in wild parrots may be able to help increase our ability to incubate in a captive setting. These artificial loggers with data loggers can also be used to validate the incubation behavior of hens in the wild, which can be useful when manipulating egg laying, incubation, as well as chick brooding for a wild population and nest management. So I'd like to thank the Scott Schaefer Lab from the San Jose State University for providing egg loggers. Sean Reagan with his lab also provided software for us as well as some of the programming for these egg loggers. I'd like to thank the Tampapata National Reserve, Suriname, Rainforest Expeditions, and a lot of different field leaders and Macaw Society volunteers for their hard work on this project. I'd also like to thank the Schubert Center for Avian Health, not only for contributing funds for this project, but also for supporting my participation in the International Citizen Congress 2025.